All right, we'll get started. So good evening. Welcome to SCH's first virtual Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership information session. So nice to see so many of our applicants in the room today learning about this, this program at SCH. So hi, nice to see you all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carlee D'Amato. I'm the Director of Upper School Admission here at SCH, and we're just so excited to be sharing with you more about the CEL program. So the way the event is going to work, in a moment, I am going to be introducing some of our amazing students here and and Mr. Glassman, who is the head of the Center for Entrepreneurship program. So to start, I'm going to just say everybody's name. Alexa, could you just wave hi? Mia, Elizabeth, Zach, Caroline, Amma, Kaya, and Finn, and Mia. And last but not least, Mr. Glassman. So these are the individuals that are going to be sharing with you their experience in the CEL program. Any questions that might come up during the event, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom. We will do our best to answer any questions that you may have. But for now, I'm going to let Ed take it away.
Great. Hello, everyone. Very nice to meet you. My name's Ed Glassman. I have the privilege and honor of being the Executive Director of the CEL program at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy. That's what we call it for short, CEL, the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, which is a bit of a mouthful. No problem, Carlee. I stumble over it too. So thank you for attending tonight. And I also really want to thank our student entrepreneurs, all of which are in the 11th and 12th grade, and all of which have been working on various products, services, ventures, nonprofits, social initiatives for a number of years now. I'll try my best to give an overview of the program, but really the best way, as is the case with any of the schools you're looking at, to learn about the school is to speak directly to the students. So I hope that this can be highly interactive. And I just find great joy hearing directly from our students every day. So I'm going to try to keep my mouth closed as much as possible. So I know that we have a lot of participants tonight, many of which are looking at 9th grade, but a handful of which are potentially coming into middle school. So I'll try to take a more global middle school through high school perspective. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do in CEL, what it's all about, a little bit about the physical space you see behind me, which is the CEL Center, where a lot of our classes and labs take place. And for the parents in the audience, a little bit about the learning outcomes we're driving toward, because even though we call ourselves a program about entrepreneurship, it's really about preparing our young people to go out in the world and enact positive change. And that looks like a lot of different things, as you'll hear from our students. So this is a program that's about 10 years old. And when it was first developed, the kind of core idea behind it was, how do we make sure that our students are ready for careers and opportunities that may have not been invented yet? How do we make them future ready? How do we make them resilient and resourceful and creative? And how do we give them what I would call an opportunity-seeking lens? In other words, when they run into problems and challenges out in the world, they don't throw up their hands and say, boy, somebody should do something about that. They say, I could be that change. I could enact that change in my neighborhood, in my community, in my state, in my city, in my world. And the umbrella under which we kind of put those learning outcomes was entrepreneurship. But at SCH, entrepreneurship is far more than business. And the courses and classes that we offer through this program sit at the intersection of design, technology, and business. The way that the program works is that through middle school and through high school into 10th grade, every year students have a series of enrichment courses that feel very different from the college prep courses that you might expect and which you will see at SCH Academy. These are classes in things like social entrepreneurship and robotics engineering and mobile application development. I teach a class on economics and personal finance to 8th graders. In 9th graders, we have classes in mechatronics and in makerspace technology in the lab over here. Very hands-on, very project-based, and in something that's very interesting to a lot of the students that come in, completely separated from grades. So in every other facet of our school, you're graded, but in the CEL courses in middle school and up through high school, we remove grades. Why? Because entrepreneurship and enacting change is all about taking risks, trying new things, getting your hands dirty, and maybe failing. And that's okay. With failure comes growth and learning. And that's kind of the pillar of what we do in CEL. The required program culminates in 10th grade with a class that we call the capstone. So picture 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade as all of these skill building courses. And for those of you that come in new in 9th grade, fear not, the 9th grade year is really built on how to get you caught up, how to get you to a place where you can be facile with various tools and technologies to bring your ideas to life. And then in 10th grade, I stand in front of the entire sophomore class, along with a group of incredible colleagues that stretch across new media design and coding and engineering and business. And we say, what do you want to work on? What are you passionate about in the world? What are problems that you want to solve? What are skills that you either have or that you'd like to acquire? And how can we build a whole semester around that experience, bringing your ideas to life in a way that is truly impactful? We call that class the capstone. It's a semester long. It's kind of a lab-based model. The teachers aren't standing in front of you and talking at you. They're working alongside of you as mentors and guides and partners. We try to bring the external community of our amazing city in as much as possible, in this case, virtually in a year like this, to help you grow your network, help you test and vet your ideas with people who aren't your teachers and aren't your parents and your friends. And at the end of the semester, we have a big showcase event with external judges and evaluators, and we give out prizes, and it's like a science fair on steroids. Now, at a lot of schools that you may be looking at and evaluating, they probably have a similar program, right? They may have a entrepreneurship seminar where you dream up a business plan and put together a slideshow and pitch it, and you get judged and maybe you get a prize. One of the things that I believe makes SCH truly unique is that we seek to create opportunities outside of the classrooms. I believe deep, deep in my heart that the young people that you see in front of you on the screen, and every young person at SCH has the potential to do great things in the world, beyond just writing a paper or making a video or pitching an idea. So after capstone, we open up a series of electives, one of which that I run called the Venture Accelerator. And this is basically, you have vetted the idea, you have tested the idea, and now you're ready to take it out into the real world and make and sell and change people's lives for the better. So the young people that you see on the screen with me tonight are some of the 35 students we have in Venture Accelerator this year, and they're all working on amazing things. And I want to spend most of our evening together tonight just talking to them, having them share the amazing work they're doing. But before we begin that, there's something very important that I want to make sure that every parent and every student knows. At our school, there's value in the CEL program, even if you never enter this class, this Venture Accelerator class. The mere process of observing an opportunity in the world, dreaming up an idea, and developing it and researching it and vetting it over a period of time builds resourcefulness and resiliency and builds these skills that you are going to find incredibly valuable in college and in career. Whether you go and start your own business one day, whether you work within an organization, whether you're a nonprofit organizer, a political activist, these sorts of tangible skills to dream up ideas, make them, share them, and work in teams are really, really going to help you. And that's why we make it such a core fundamental part of what we do here at SCH Academy. So that's my spiel. I'm sure a lot of you have questions and we'll answer all of them. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from each of our entrepreneurs. We'll just go in a circle. I'll call on you guys. And the first question is just if each of you could do your elevator pitch, right? You guys all know the terminology. What's the current project, business, nonprofit that you're working on with us in the CEL program? So Alexa, why don't you start us off?
Hi, everyone. So, my project is a nonprofit organization and it is a backpack kit for the homeless. So, each backpack includes essential items that they might be lacking. And so, I've already had a drop off to the Broad Street Ministry. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is. And so, I gave them 75 backpacks. So, that's what I'm working on right now is just getting the homeless in our community the items they need, especially right now during the pandemic.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alexa. Mia, how about you go next?
Hi, my name is Mia Castonis. I'm a senior here at SCH. My company is Sonas to America. It's a nonprofit, and we're teamed up with the Sonas Weaving Village in Sonas, Cambodia. So we source all of their handmade goods here, and we work to market and sell them, and then we donate all of the money back to the village, and it helps provide the women with a steady income as well as gives their children the opportunity to attend college through the village's scholarship program.
Thank you, Mia. Finn.
Hi, I'm Finn. I'm also a senior at SCH. For the past, I'll just go into what I did for the past 2 years and then now. For the past 2 years, I was working on a drug rehabilitation facility, both the financial plan and a physical model that would serve people who are addicted to narcotics as an alternative to prison time. And now, after this summer, I've been working on a website and outreach to high school students to learn more about the prison abolition movement that I started to learn about over the summer and kind of shifted away from my original idea, but still used all the things that I learned through that process.
Great. Thank you, Finn. Nia?
Hi, I'm Nia. I'm a junior. So my business right now is a nonprofit. It's called the Beverage Box. It's a curated box containing products from small businesses in the Philly area. So just to give you guys an example, I partnered with High Point Cafe in Mount Airy, and I've also partnered with Chocolates by Me in the Fairway Market in Chestnut Hill. And really the goal of this business is to help small businesses and local businesses during COVID-19. So all the proceeds from the sales go back to them to help them. And we've sold almost about 10 boxes now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nia. Elizabeth and Zach, do you guys want to go next?
Hi, I'm Ellie, and Zach and I and my partner are creating an app called Fantasy Politics that combines fantasy sports with America's politics. So a participant of our app will form a league like you do on fantasy football, but with politicians. And the general goal of the app is to get young people more engaged with America's politics.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you, guys. Kaya, I bet you know why I'm walking in this direction. Do you want to talk about your business?
Okay, so me, Kaya, and Layla, unfortunately, who couldn't be here, we have created our company, which is called Reshoes, which is a one-of-a-kind brand that specializes in using secondhand shoes and materials. And it basically is just to create a cool and unique and bold design to catch the eye on a regular street.
Yeah, and basically our goal is just to appeal to our customers' aesthetics and the current trends, as well as inspire others to recycle and contribute to stopping pollution, as well as creating some sort of alternative to fast fashion, which is really hurting our planet. So yeah, and also just make some cool stuff.
Wonderful. And finally, Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm a senior. For the past 3 years, I've been working on a company called Blastech, which essentially is a subscription-based service for right now, like larger schools and universities in the Philadelphia area to recycle their 3D printing waste, which like Kaya and Ama's project, 3D printing waste is like a really like random piece of plastic waste that no one really thinks about. So I'm trying to make the engineering community a little more sustainable.
Great, wonderful. Thank you all. So I'm going to treat this kind of like a panel discussion. I'll throw out a handful of questions. If you feel like you want to share, just give me a hand raise and I'll call on you, okay? So the first question I'd like you all to respond to or to kind of think about is, what has been the most inspiring / transformational experience in your CEL journey? And I use the journey word on purpose. It doesn't have to be necessarily about the business you're working on today. You could reach even back to middle school, but just overall in CEL, the most transformational or inspiring thing. Who would like to respond first? Finn, go ahead.
Yeah, so last year I got to visit Esperanza Health Center in North Philadelphia and actually have interviews with formerly incarcerated addicts who told me about their story and what they want to see change in the criminal legal system's approach to addiction. And that really informed a big piece of my project, but also I got to build connections with people I otherwise wouldn't have, and CEL gave me that opportunity, like Mr. Glassman was talking about using our resources to go outside of our community and connect with more people. So that was the most inspiring experience I've had in CEL.
Great, thank you, Finn. Amma, would you like to go next?
Sure. So, for us, Free Shoes team is definitely making connections with new people. So recently, we got like the amazing opportunity to meet with this person who was on the shoe surgeon. It's like recreating shoes and like deconstructing them and constructing them. And it's a program, and they have them in California and New York, and it's like really big because a lot of famous people get their like customized shoes from them. So we had the opportunity of meeting with somebody who got a chance to go there and be a part of it and learn new skills, and it really helped us to learn like what our next step will be for sure.
Alexa.
So I would say the most influential thing that's happened to me in my journey so far actually happened about 2-3 weeks ago. When I made my first drop off at the Broad Street Ministry, I actually had news cameras come, and then I was interviewed by Fox 29 News for their Philadelphia morning show. And so it just really shows you what Mr. Glassman was talking about earlier, how this business or this program in school shows you how you can get and move into the world. I had never imagined that I would ever be on TV. And then I was sitting in my living room and I saw myself on national television, and I never imagined it. So I think that was probably the most influential part of my journey so far.
Great. Zach.
Hi, everybody. So I came to SCH in 5th grade with a friend of mine, and we had a lot of, ideas that could have been in a venture incubator program. For example, maybe a trash can that's automated to go to your curb on Tuesday morning or whatever. But when we came to 5th grade, we had the opportunity to actually do something with it. And so my friend Ryan and I made an iBelt, which is like a belt where you can hold your phone and it would charge your phone and it would display it out for you, kind of like a selfie stick. And I think that was really what got me interested in all of these business opportunities in the venture incubator program. Not only did we make a product, a prototype, but we learned how to construct a pitch for selling it to other people, how to work on finance, and it was really what got me interested in the capstone program and everything beyond.
Mia, and then Caroline.
I think the most inspiring part of my business so far was in the beginning of lockdown. We contacted the village and asked if they could make masks. And within the first day of getting the masks in America, we already sold out of the first 100. And it was the first time we were fulfilling orders online. So it was really overwhelming. But we called Paul, who manages the Weaving Village, and he ended up telling us that the money that we were able to donate was enough money to pay all of the women in the village for that month, which was really awesome to hear that we were making a difference.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit of context to that one. So in non-COVID times, our school has a pretty robust global travel program. And every year there's a trip that is in some way related to social entrepreneurship and service. So I've had the amazing opportunity to run a number of those trips. And one of our go-to locations every other year is Cambodia. So this village that Mia is talking about, that she's made this amazing connection with, is actually a place that our students have physically gone to and lived in and worked in. And it's just been so amazing to see, Paul, who Mia just referenced, the gentleman who runs the village. He made this point last year that so many groups, school groups, come in and out and they experience the village, then they kind of like leave it behind and they never contact them again. And Mia and her partner Alyssa have done this amazing thing where they had such empathy and understanding for these women and the work that they do, that they have spent a year developing this relationship. And I think it shows, again, that idea of our work going beyond the boundaries of our school and beyond the boundaries of earning grades and getting a college transcript together and really making a real world impact. And that goes for, everyone on the call, but I want to drive home that one point of the story. Okay, Caroline, you're up.
So shifting gears a little to a little more of a humble brag about myself, I guess. I guess 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago or so ago, Finn and I were lucky enough to win a grant from our school called the STEAL Fund, which essentially gives money to typically one student per year for an unpaid internship or a summer program that is like based around entrepreneurship. And Mrs. Steele will pay for it, or pay with like a certain reasonable price. But I was lucky enough to be able to go to Hawaii, which was much different than I expected it to be in terms of my project. So I spent a month there and I interned with the Hawaii Wildlife Fund, which works as like a conservation organization for Hawaii's native culture, as well as their beautiful, picturesque ecosystem. So I interned there, and when I was there, I actually learned a lot more about how pollution affects typically indigenous and native communities, because they're most likely to be affected by it. And I think that was like where I really started to become more concerned with the social aspect of my project, because even in Philadelphia, there's a lot more pollution in the lower income areas, which is like a huge issue. But that's, I would say, where the most inspirational thing, like how I can at least try to tackle part of it. And I know that I can't like do it all, but I can be a pebble in the like ripple system. So I would say that was my like most inspirational thing.
How about the most challenging experience that you've had through CEL? How did you respond, and what did you learn? Nia, yes, and then Elizabeth.
So for me, I actually pivoted. This wasn't my original business. What I created for Capstone was an organic tea business called The Real Tea. But then COVID hit, and I'm sitting in the apartment that I'm in right now, and I had to truly like take a step back and give myself the freedom to choose something else, and kind of let my imagination think beyond the conventional, which is, I really think that's a general theme of CEL. And I'm the kind of person, kind of a little bit of a perfectionist, who has to, have one idea and then stick with it. But CEL really allows you to go through different ideas and adapt and be really flexible.
Awesome. Ellie, how about you?
So my most challenging experience is probably the process I'm going through right now with my app. My partner and I, Zach, we established a really lofty goal of creating a fantasy politics app last year during Capstone. And I think it was a lot easier for us to figure out our idea. But right now we're going through the process of actually putting our idea to life. And I think we're realizing how much goes into making something a reality, and establishing all the steps we need to get there, and creating concrete goals for ourselves to achieve, I think is my most challenging experience, but it's been really rewarding to go through it.
Any other responses? Caroline and then Kaya.
So I have like two different aspects, I guess, of my project. Like Mr. Glassman said earlier, we have these things called like studios. So I'm technically in two of them. I'm in the engineering studio, as well as like the more business side of it. And I'm very much a science person. That's like where I thrive in school. I thrive in like math and science. And then it came down to like actually writing a business plan. And Mr. Glassman can tell you, I fought back pretty hard. I did not want to do it. And it was probably the most painful thing that like I've ever gone through in school. But it was like really worth it in the long run, because it made my business like a lot more serious, and like it can kind of be taken a little more serious now that I've thought about all of these I've thought about like everything that has to go into my finances, and like how I'm actually gonna like put it in place. So that was probably my most challenging things. And yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing about working with Caroline is she hit it on the head. She's an engineer at heart. Her passion is building this machine that takes 3D printer waste and melts it down and turns it into usable filament. But I forced her to make a business plan and a pitch, and she was so resistant. But unfortunately, or fortunately for her, that business plan kept winning competitions. So for the past 2 years, she's won all these competitions and made all this prize money, which funds the business. So Caroline, even though you don't like it, you're good at it. I'm glad we forced you to do it. Anybody else have
Fake it till you make it.
Anybody else have a challenging experience, something they learned through the friction that comes with challenge? Oh, Kaya, you were going to share something, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, an underlying, I guess, theme in CEL is being able to manage your time properly, which I know personally I always challenge with that, and or have challenges with that. And for CEL, there's always an expectation that one thing that I learned in Venture Accelerator, it takes it up a notch from Capstone. You have a lot more expectations. You're taken way more seriously, as Caroline was saying. And having these time management skills will definitely help you through middle school up until high school and on. Especially like every week, I got to try to figure out how to make a unique art piece shoe, and I got to manage my time and make sure I can get it all done by the, I guess, time limit.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kaya. CEL throughout middle school and high school is structured very differently than what you would have from a traditional academic class, right? A science class, a history class, you have a reading, a quiz, a test, you kind of know these milestones. With CEL, because we give the students more freedom to identify the project they want to work on, oftentimes it's the course of a trimester or a semester. We say, okay, we've got these end goals we want to hit. Let's work backwards. I often talk about what we call SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timed. Every kid on this call is going to probably roll their eyes at that acronym because I say it all the time. But I truly believe, just like Kaya so eloquently put it, that being able to like have a long-term goal and work over the course of a year, or in the case of everyone on this call, multiple years toward that goal, is what it means to have grit and resilience. So it's one of the core things that we're all about in the program. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to go off like what you were saying about like making goals or whatever, and like definitely the hardest thing is like when you make your goals, knowing like that it's not always going to happen, because especially for like our company, we were like, we're going to make 100 shoes by the end, and we only made 5 right now. So like you try to like do these big things, but you don't realize how hard it is, especially until you're in it. But like I guess that's the fun part, because you never know what's going to come and happen.
Yeah. Any other responses to the challenge bit before we move on to the next question? Okay, great. Next question. How would you guys say that CEL prepares students for their experiences in college and career? Alexa, why don't you go first?
So like I mentioned before, my project is a nonprofit, and so I've had to deal with all of like the legal fees going into it. So creating a 501c3 to make my nonprofit an actual nonprofit so people can get tax deductions. And I'm 16, I'm a junior. I never have dealt with taxes and paying bills and all of these real world stuff that you think. And in finance class, I'm sure some of you guys would be like, well, you'll learn about how to do taxes and you'll learn how to do all of these things. But in CEL, you actually have to learn about it, and you have to do it at the same time because it applies right into what you're doing. And so I had never imagined working with all of these like businessmen trying to figure out how I can create a 501c3. And here I am having meetings like every other week, talking to all of these professionals, figuring out how I can make my business an actual business in the real world. So I think that's definitely, it prepares you for career, and it just shows you the real world adult things that you might not necessarily learn in high school, that, or at least in other high schools, but in CEL, you definitely learn that.
Yeah, let's do Finn, then Mia, then Ellie.
I think the main thing that I've really like learned and honed in CEL is like how I communicate with people, because like when we're all reaching out to experts and people we want to interview and everything, you have to write like a bunch of emails. And I didn't think about this before, but email writing is a real skill. And I definitely have learned that in CEL. And also just like being able, like we were all pitching our ideas in our businesses, and being able to communicate with people and really like tell a story through what you're saying and make it engaging, make people listen. Like that's a real skill just in life, like college interviews, like your college essays, in careers and career interviews and stuff like that. Being able to communicate and express yourself in a very clear way is really important. And I think I've definitely learned that in CEL.
Great, thank you, Finn. Mia?
I think for me, the biggest thing has just been the shift in mentality from like a class and getting a good grade to real goals, and also the shift in mentality even from teacher to mentor, because I think we all see Mr. Glassman as our mentor working beside us, not just someone trying to give us a deadline and us trying to get a good grade. And even the goals that we have to set for ourselves, like Amma and Kai were saying, when you don't meet those goals, it just matters for you and your company and your progress. It's not like it's going to affect your grade or what happens. It's, if I don't meet a goal, it means that the village is getting less money and my business isn't progressing as fast. So more just being self-aware.
Wonderful, thank you. Ellie?
A really interesting aspect of CEL, especially in the later programs like the ones we're in, is that you really create your own curriculum in a way. There's no set tests you take every week. There's no set homework you have to do or anything. It's really you decide what the best course of action is going to be for your business. And then you have to make the decisions of, should I do user testing this week, or should I enter another competition to try to win a grant? And I really think that speaks to real world and experience, especially if you become an entrepreneur. There's not going to be someone telling you what to do every day. You really have to make those decisions of what's going to better your company.
Awesome, well said. Caroline?
This is like kind of summarizing what everyone else had said. But this is, I guess, something that I've learned that I've heard from other people becomes really important in like your professional life, is being like becoming your own advocate. So again, Mr. Glassman and I, we've been working together every day for the past 3 years. Definitely have gone to him multiple times and said, I really don't want to do this. Like, I don't think that this is like what will be best for me. And again, he's definitely, there was one time I really, again, did not want to do something. And he said, no, you have to do it. And then I ended up winning like a pretty big competition. So, I mean, thank you for that. But there definitely, I definitely have learned, like Finn said, like how to communicate and how to communicate with someone who is like technically Mr. Glassman's like in charge of us, but like it's like your own project. But like how to communicate with someone who's kind of above you, and say, I understand that like why you want me to do this, but I don't think that this would be best for me. As well as like what Finn said was like how to tell your story and how to sound professional but true to yourself, if that makes any sense at all. Because I found that like when I'm not trying to sound like a lot older than I am, or I'm not trying to sound very professional, like I can still sound serious, but like I like to have fun. I'm a pretty like not serious person. So like that's when I do the best. Like that's how I do the best, is when I'm like pretty true to myself. But like there are times where I have to be like, okay, like this really isn't like something that can happen. And I think that that leads to a lot of like great skill in your professional life.
Yeah, well said, Caroline. Just piggybacking off of that, and then Nia, I'll come to you to wrap up that question. Being true to yourself, knowing your passions and what kind of drives and motivates you beyond a grade is also core to what we do in CEL. So in the capstone in 10th grade, for example, the very first exercise is this sort of like reflection around who you are as a person, what drives and motivates you. And I think that if our students come away with nothing else, a better sense of themselves and what they kind of love to do really matters. The other thing, because I've been getting a lot of shout outs, thank you guys. I'd be remiss if I didn't add that CEL in terms of faculty is way more than me. It's kind of like a hub for our engineering program. So Peter Randall, James Martin, our elite world-class robotics team, a lot of the first encounters that our students have with them is through the CEL classes those guys teach. The person that directs our coding program, Dr. Vincent Day, teaches CEL. We have a wonderful entrepreneur in residence named Paris Grayman. We have 20 faculty members across multiple different disciplines and divisions that all collaborate. It's an amazing example of interdisciplinary collaboration and work. You're getting kind of like a business skewed perspective tonight because these are all our venture accelerator kids, but at a very high level, CEL is like, if you've got an idea, this is a pathway at our school to help you bring it to life. Okay, Nia, you had something to add, and then we'll move on to the last question.
I just wanted to emphasize that like CEL in general, and especially when you move on to Venture Accelerator, is really as hands off as you want it to be. And you really have a lot of control over your schedule, which is very representative of the college experience, and having to like schedule work time and then meetings with professors. I think it's really similar to that. I also just want to touch on like a general theme that I think everyone else has been talking about, but for me personally, going into CEL, I had a little bit of apprehension because I never really knew that much about business, and I'm more focused on like English on that side of things. I love to write, I love to read, I love to write novels. And so I was like, how can I possibly apply who I am and my skill set to, you know, CEL, because I had such a kind of narrow view of business. But it's really, you can take the skills that you have and apply them in so many different ways. Like I made a website, and I got to use my love of design to make that. And I also, you know, got to write, you know, just the About Me page and so many other things. So I got to use my skills in business, which I never thought was possible until I joined CEL.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you said that. Anyone can be an entrepreneur, and in my opinion, skewed by my profession, everyone needs to think like an entrepreneur, no matter what career you're pursuing. So great point, Nia. Okay, last question for you guys, and then we'll move on to questions from our audience. In your opinion, what makes the CEL classes, and this can be across all the grades, all the divisions, unique? And what do you think prospective families should know about the CEL program as they consider SCH for their kids? Ellie, go ahead, and then we'll go to Amma.
I think what makes CEL really unique is how much it pushes you outside of your comfort zone more than a core class like say history or math could. And I wanted to give an example of the first CEL class I ever took at SCH. It was in 5th or 6th grade, and it was a public speaking class. And I believe it was pass fail. And I went into the class thinking, oh, this is going to be so easy. And then I was told we had to give a TED talk in front of our entire class with an earpiece microphone, lights on a stage. And it turned out to be one of the most difficult classes I've ever taken, but it really helped me get over the hurdle of public speaking. And it also just really made me realize how a class like CEL could help me improve myself beyond getting that grade, and a skill that applies more to life rather than test taking, but something I'm going to use over and over again for the rest of my life.
Great, thank you, Ellie.
Personally, I found I agree with Ellie, like everything she said. And also it's like, you'll never have a class like this because you'll have your math, and then here comes CEL where it's like completely based on what you do. And like, especially for like this year, like our quarter grade is going to be based on how many shoes we sell. So everybody's like different, and it like makes you kind of feel special in a way. But, and also it's just like you learn so many different things, like things you will never think about that you might need in like life later, because like I've learned how to like code an app. Like who would have thought you would learn how to do that in CEL? So like I think it's very unique and it's really fun to do.
Great. Alexa and then Zach.
Piggybacking off of what Amma said, I definitely agree. A lot of people are like, aren't you stressed with like starting your own business and like having it as a class? And I'm like, I honestly don't even consider this a class. Like, I enjoy it so much that it's not even work at this point. It's just something that I love to do. But talking about like the classes that you take when you're in middle school, because I know we have some middle school families watching, I think it's definitely important. And you wouldn't necessarily think to take a class. Like, I never thought I would take a robotics class or a coding class, and then here I am taking a coding class in high school by choice because I liked it. So I think it opens you up to opportunities that you might not have necessarily picked for yourself, but then you're like, oh, now that I have to take this as a class and I really enjoy this, I realize that this is something that I might want to do in the future. So this part of our school just really opens you up to maybe what you might be interested in that you might never have thought about before. So that's definitely something to consider.
Well said. A breadth of experiences. I think that's great. Zach, and then we'll wrap this one up with Finn.
I would say there's only one place in the entire world that can even rival CEL, and that has to be Shark Tank. All right. And Shark Tank is like professional people, there's adults that are coming on with their businesses. They spend years and years and years. And for a student at a school, who spent a semester working on something that they are truly passionate about, to have the ability to get judged by their peers, by their teachers, by independent panelists. It's something that you'll never have at no matter what other school you go to. GA doesn't offer it, Penn Charter doesn't offer it, Episcopal doesn't offer it. There's no school like this. And it's not like we're a bunch of nerds that like getting 5 hours of homework every day and struggling on our CEL programs that fail a lot. But this is something that's actually fun. Like, if you pick the right topic, and all the mentors here will help you pick the right topic, you will never come to a CEL class that you're like, I have CEL, what a shame. It's always, you're excited to work on CEL, you get a lot done, it's super fun, and you should definitely take up this opportunity because you'll never have it again.
Cool. Finn, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, that's like basically what I was gonna say. My main point was just there's literally nowhere else like that does this. There's no version of CEL. Like, even in my college search process as a senior, I have not seen one thing rival the freedom that we have in CEL. Like, I literally at the beginning of every semester, I sit down with Mr. Glassman and we create my own grade book. Like, that is crazy and very special. And yeah, just echoing like Zach's point, there is literally nowhere else, I guess, besides Shark Tank that is like CEL. And also because of the great mentors and the great guidance we have, like, there are so many different connections that our faculty like bring to the table. Like, the reason I was able to interview a bunch of people I did last year was because of one of our CEL mentors, her husband having a connection to that health clinic. So basically, we're able to utilize all of our resources and have such a great advocate like Mr. Glassman and all the other faculty. So really, if someone even put out the same program as CEL, it wouldn't be the same because we have such an incredible faculty and guidance. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Mia, you can wrap it up. Go ahead, dear.
I just have something quick to say about what Finn said. I was on a virtual college visit for one of the top business schools in the country, and they were explaining their business program and how you can start your own company. And I was sitting there like, I already did this. And at the end, they were like, and at the end of the semester, you donate all your money back, and that's it. And it's just so unique to CEL that you can come up with an idea at any point in time and continue it. Like, I came up with a business in 10th grade, restarted, came up with a business in 11th, didn't really like it, switched, and now I've been doing this, and I'll continue it in college too.
Cool. Wonderful, guys. Okay, Carlee, do you want to throw some questions from the audience at us?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to everyone. You all did an amazing job. Yes. Clap, clap. So for our families that are attending the event, please feel free to put any questions that you may have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. One question that came in that I figured I would just circle back on. Ed, can you talk about the actual classes students take in the middle school Or can you just say what they're called in the middle and the upper school?
Yeah, no problem. There are a lot of them, 3 per year in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then 4 in grade 9. After this Zoom is over, we'll send out an email link to our curriculum guide and our digital brochure that walks through all of them. I will throw out a few highlights. It's like picking my favorite kid. I don't have a favorite CEL class, but in 5th grade, we have a class taught by David Cool in one of our 3 maker spaces on campus called Adventures in New Media. It's an introduction to creative coding, 3D design, Scratch, and robotics. It's kind of like an amalgamation of all those things. The students love it. In 6th grade, we have an entire class on video production that's predicated on the idea of building a YouTube channel. It is a fake YouTube channel. So the kids develop their own like YouTube personality and make a brand guide and videos. Doesn't go anywhere, but it's a fun way for them to find their voice and kind of tell their story through a medium that they're all very familiar with. In 7th grade, I really like the TED Talk class, which Ellie already mentioned, where every kid develops their own TED Talk. I also really like our Introduction to Coding class taught by Dr. Vincent Day. One of the neat things about CEL is every year of the progression, there is a class in coding. That's a pretty special thing for SCH. In 8th grade, I selfishly like my class, Money Matters, which is an introduction to personal finance and entrepreneurship. There's also a class called Digital Publishing, which is essentially pick one of the UN rights, like human rights goals, and develop a digital marketing campaign and social media campaign around it, which students really enjoy and are challenged by, but in a good way. 9th grade, the classes are just like intense and amazing. I think I like the mobile app development class because it translates to so many of our student businesses, but the fabrication and design class is great. Ian Crayer's data and business class is great. And then 10th grade is capstone. So it's whatever the kids want to design. I know it's like a lot to keep track of, but first, the 2 things to know is number 1, we'll send you the names of the classes and the descriptions. And number 2, every kid takes every single class. That's a thing that not every family understands coming in. It's not elective based, like the story that you've been hearing about. I didn't think I'd like coding, but then I took it and then I took an elective. That's because we intentionally really want to open up every student at our school to these types of experiences because we want to surprise them and delight them and help them uncover passions that maybe they didn't think they had.
Awesome. And you talked a little bit about one of the travel opportunities. Can you talk about any of the other places you've gone with the CEL program?
Yeah, we oscillate between Johannesburg, South Africa, and Cambodia in CEL. So South Africa is a trip to the African Leadership Academy. Zach says CEL is the only place in the world that does it like this. I tend to agree, but the closest other place is African Leadership Academy in Johannesburg. They draw students from all over the continent. It's a boarding school. It's a 2-year entrepreneurship program. So we have a really unique partnership with them. And then Cambodia has just been an amazing trip that we've run now for, I mean, not this year, of course, but that we have run for almost 10 years on an every other year basis. And we have a variety of nonprofit partners in that region. And it's just incredible. And I'm sure we'll get it going again once we've passed COVID. And those aren't the only trips, by the way. There's an entire global travel program. Those are just the 2 that CEL runs.
Thank you. And then in terms of after you leave SCH, are there students and programs that, ventures that have been created that students have been able to continue on with after they've left SCH?
Yeah, a handful. Andrew Kramer is a graduate from 3 years ago who's at Wharton now. He launched a business called Campus Connect that creates virtual tour opportunities for colleges when kids aren't able to physically go there. He still has it going. It's kind of his senior capstone at Wharton. It's also, as I'm sure you can imagine, a very ripe business opportunity in this time. Nyla Jordan started a lip balm company last year, has kept it going. All the proceeds go to Operation Smile that does cleft palate surgery for kids in 3rd world countries. She just made a $1,600 contribution to that organization yesterday based on the profits from her lip balm sales. Pays for like almost 10 cleft palate surgeries. Annabelle Grove launched like a nutrition and fitness initiative in Philadelphia. So we've had a handful that keep it going, but honestly, I'm way more fixated on the soft skills, the communication, collaboration skills that our students are able to acquire. And I'm looking for the next venture they launch after SCH. And I hope that looking back in a few years, we'll have myriad graduates from this program that are out there in the world, launching their businesses and drawing on the skills they began to acquire with us. That being said, I will say that I'm still in touch with a ton of our entrepreneur graduates from the last 3 years. I talk to them weekly. I give them tips, advice, guidance, connections, and I bring them in to mentor and judge our current students. So it's become a pretty unique ecosystem that we have going here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again to all of our amazing students. Mr. Glassman, thank you for being a part of this event. To our families that attended, we're so happy that you were able to be here with us for the full hour. If there are any questions about the application process in the middle school or the upper school, myself and Allison Gatter are happy to talk to you and go through the application process. There's still time to apply for those who are interested in potentially applying for the 21-22 school year. And yeah, so thank you to everyone. I hope you all have a wonderful evening and take care.
Good. Have a good night.